Hello everyone and welcome, it's Dawn here, and today we're going to carry on with our theme of using acrylic mediums with our watercolour pencils. And if you joined me yesterday, you will have seen me use texture paste. Well, today we're going to use a different type of texture paste, but this time we are going to use this glass bead medium. And just like yesterday, if you're with me, I'm going to use my trusty knife, my painting knife, and what we do, we just trowel it on just like that, and because it's got this grain to it, it does make this delicious sound. It's absolutely gorgeous, and we're going to use it to create a sand effect for a beach. So we just do that. You can use both sides of your knife, that's absolutely fine, but you will need to leave it to dry for quite some time. I would advise leaving it overnight, which is what I did. I've got one just sitting to the side of me, which I did last night before I went to bed, and that's what we did. And just like yesterday, I would recommend that you grab yourself a baby wipe or a wet wipe, or even just an ordinary tissue for that if you haven't got anything else, and wipe off your knife because it will stick. And I would also recommend you use a rough board behind it, because if this goes on your work surface, you're not going to get it off once it's dry. This is just the back of an old watercolour pad, and so I would strongly recommend you put some rough paper or rough board or surface underneath, just to protect your work surface. And so you leave that overnight, and when you do that, you will find that it has gone clear, so you can't really see it, but this is going to be sand, as I've said. And I'm going to use 3 tones of sand colour. You can do this with your watercolour pencils, you just have to be a bit careful. And I'm going to put the light colour on, which you probably won't see to begin with, but it will just give it a sort of base, really. But you can hear the pencil going over that sound. Sorry it's a bit noisy and loud, but because the sound and the texture is quite rough, it does make a bit of a racket, I'm afraid. But I'm sure we can live with it, and we're going to keep on doing that. And I'm going to use just a couple more tones, really. A middle one. We're going to use a light middle and dark, really, just to give our sand some real texture. And there you can really see that texture coming up as we rub the darker tones over it. We're going to try and get a bit more on that edge there. It's not, I have to warn you, it's not the easiest texture paste to go over with pencil, but it's worth it because it does give some fabulous effects. And we're just going to put a bit of a dark over, just like that, not too much because it'll just overpower everything else you've done. But it'll put some shadow in our sand, and of course sand does have shadow in it, just like every other texture. So we'll just put that on like that. I think that'll do for that one. And we are going to need a brush. I'm just going to use a medium brush. Any old watercolour brush will do. I'm using a round, but not too much water. If you think you've got too much, just dab it off a little bit. And we're just going to blend that colour like that. And then you can really see that sand texture. You could take that further if you wanted to and make the sand effect even thicker. But of course, the thicker you make it, it's slightly more difficult to actually get the pencil onto it. So it's up to you, really. If you want a light sand effect, just use that. It's just as effective, but it just takes a bit more work if you put more paste on. So there we have our sand. Well, it's not really sand texture medium, it's glass bead medium. There is a sand texture medium you can get for acrylic painting, but I couldn't find any in my art shop, so I used the glass bead medium. So I hope you've enjoyed that and found it useful, and perhaps have a go at using this in your own pencil paintings. As you can see, it does work, but do remember to leave it overnight to dry. You really don't want to get your pencils mixed up in wet paste, because if it dries you'll ruin your pencils, and that's the last thing you need. So have fun with that. Have a great day, what's left of it, and I will see you very soon. Have a good weekend. I will see you Monday, and do remember to stay safe. Bye bye for now.